In today's class, we will make some follow-up discussion of the contents we are covering in from last two classes. So job order costing for a service company. Let me reiterate again that job order costing tends to be applicable in manufacturing company only, but we discussed about movie producing company which can also use and which in fact uses the job order costing. So exercise 214 is an example which showcases how service company can use the job order costing. So Yancy Production is a film studio. So it's again a service company which produces film and uses the job order costing. So the company's direct materials consist of items such as costume and props. Its direct labor includes each film's actors, directors, and extras. The company's overhead costs include items such as utilities, depreciation of equipment, senior management salaries, and wages of maintenance workers. The NC applies its overhead cost to the films based on direct labor dollars. So this is the activity base, direct labor dollars. At the beginning of the year, Yancy made the following estimates: direct labor dollars to support all productions. This is 8 million. Then fixed overhead cost is $4.8 million. Variable overhead cost per direct labor dollar is 0.05. So okay, I see that my internet connection got disconnected, so you are not hearing me. So I'll repeat. Let me take a new connection. Okay, I hope you are hearing me now clearly. Yes. Okay, fine. So let me share the screen again. Okay, good. So we are talking about a film company which produces movie, and it uses some direct materials, some direct levers, some overhead costing, but the nature of its offering is service other than product. So the problem is related to how we apply the job order costing for a service company. So let me ask you that what you mean by the props, and give me your answer in the chat box, which is a part of direct materials for the film. Costumes and props, but what is props? We know the costume. Let me wait to see your answer in the chat box. You have got your question that what we mean by or what we understand by props in the film, which is a part of direct materials. Anyone? I see no answer. A prop, formerly known as property, is an object used on a stage or a screen by actors during a performance or screen production. It's an object used on a stage or a screen by actors during a performance or a screen production. Okay, it can be any object which is particularly relevant for a particular movie, not relevant for other movies. And okay, so okay. Can you give me some examples? Yeah, I got the meaning, but can me, okay. Props are the items held or used by actors on a stage to make the action more realistic. Fake guns in action movies. Okay, thank you very much for your response. Okay, so we have got that what kind of direct materials are used in the film production. And we have some clear direct labor expenses, which are fees for actors, actors, directors, and extras. The company's overhead costs include items such as utilities, depreciation of equipment, senior management salaries, and wage maintenance of workers, wages of maintenance workers. Okay. So compute the predetermined overhead rate. So we see the activity base is direct labor dollars. To support all production, the activity base has been expressed in terms of direct labor dollars. And we need to find out what portion of the overhead cost is fixed and what portion of the overhead cost is variable. Then we'll go for determining the predetermined overhead rate. Okay, so let me take you to the whiteboard here, and we have a fixed overhead of 4.8 million. I'm not writing in full form, assuming that you have already solved. And what is the portion of variable overhead? It is $0.05 per direct labor hour. So this is our activity base per direct labor hour. Here it is direct labor hour. So $0.05 multiplied by this one dollar direct labor hour, 8 million. Okay, so you get a total amount from here that should be around $5.2 million. Okay, it is our total overhead cost. So we need to find out the overhead rate per dollar direct labor hour. So how can we get? We get this numerator and the total overhead cost. And what is the denominator? Denominator is the 8 million direct labor hour. Let me write it in this form. Okay. So we'll get how much? 0.65. You can also share your answer in the chat box. Okay, it should be per in this form, dollar direct labor. Okay, whatever the format you use. Okay, so this is the response of us to the question of requirement 1, predetermined overhead rate. Now the second requirement, during the year Yancy produced a film title. You can say that again it is the film title, so it is also the job title that incurred the following cost. So direct materials is given 1.259 million, direct labor cost is given 2.4 million. So 1.259 is the direct material. I mean, all these numbers are in million, obviously. And what about the direct labor? Direct labor is 2.4 million. All these numbers are in million. And what about the overhead? For overhead, we have seen that this film has used how many direct labor dollars? This film has used the connection is disturbing in all the ways. Okay, so we are here, we are solving. Okay, so now the overhead part. So it is the total direct labor hours for the films it used, and it should be multiplied by the overhead rate, which is 0.65. So if we sum all of this, how much you will get? Remember, this is for the direct materials, this is for the direct labor, this is for the manufacturing overhead. We have two components here. One is manufacturing predetermined overhead rate, this is 0.65, and dollar labor hour is here, that is 2.45 million dollar. And we are multiplying these two to get the manufacturing overhead. Okay. So what will be the total? I believe I have got one response yet. Okay, 5.219 million. So okay, 5.22 million in more precise number. If we write in more brief form, okay. So that should be our response to the requirement of requirement number 2, compute the total job cost for the particular film. So we are getting good responses. Thank you all for responding. And I also expect responses from the people who do not respond commonly, so that you can check that whether I'm in a wrong direction and you are in right direction, or we both are in wrong direction. Okay. Okay, so this is for the 214 exercise, and then next one is 219. That is more straightforward. I believe we probably shared the background of the exercise 219 in a problem we discussed in the slides in the class before the previous class, if I'm not wrong. Okay, there is a question in the chat box. Should we prepare the job cost sheet for requirement 2? If the requirement asks for you to showcase your cost in a job cost sheet, in that case, you will go for preparing it. Otherwise not. Okay. Okay. Problem 219. High desert. Okay. The problem is what about what? You probably can recall that we commonly use the job order costing and apply the overhead rate based on a plant-wide overhead rate. Plant-wide, I mean, we include all activities, we include all departments in a single amount of cost. But we also have seen the problems with that, and we also have iterated the reason that we need to go for some alternatives like multiple predetermined overhead rate, because there can be a problem in the single predetermined overhead rate because of the nature of the work in different departments. Some departments might use more machines, some departments might use more levers. So it will be wise if we use the department-wise plant predetermined overhead rate instead of using the plant-wide predetermined overhead rate. Okay, so that is the application of the understanding of what we understood in previous classes. Okay, high desert pottery works makes a variety of pottery products that it sells to retailers. The company uses a job order costing system in which departmental predetermined overhead rates are used to apply manufacturing overhead costs to jobs. Remember, it has explicitly mentioned that it uses departmental predetermined overhead rate. So for each department, it will present to you, you have to determine overhead rate for each department separately and apply it separately. Okay, the predetermined overhead rate in the molding department is based on machine hours, and the rate in the painting department is based on direct labor hours. So we see that there should be a justification that molding department uses machine hours most, and painting department uses labor hours most. And we can also conclude that molding department is more capital intensive department, and painting department is more labor intensive department. You get this kind of concept, the capital intensive, capital abundant, labor intensive, labor abundant. These concepts in the course you are currently taking in this semester, international trade and finance. So international trade and finance, are you taking this course in this semester? Probably yes. You see, are you taking? Yeah, good. So you're taking the international trade and finance. So you will see the concept that capital intensive countries, or the country in which capital is abundant, that country is expected to produce and export more capital intensive goods. So let me give you some examples of capital intensive goods, but there is a question that whether it is really capital intensive. So for example, automobile. So automobile is generally believed as capital intensive good. So this product should be produced and exported by a country which is the product which is capital intensive, that product should be produced and exported by a country which is capital abundant. So if we think of Japan is a capital abundant country, Japan should produce and export more capital intensive goods. And alternatively, garment traditionally was believed that it is a labor intensive good. So that's why it should be produced by a country which is labor abundant. And we have an example of our country, that our country produces and exports garment because we have labor abundance, and we need to focus more on the labor-intensive product. But it surprisingly, you will see that Bangladesh has started producing automobiles in its own territory. Instead of believing that Bangladesh is a labor-abundant country, Bangladesh is producing and will also participate in exporting capital-intensive good. And you will also see that some capital-abundant country like uh, uh, Germany or like some European countries which are historically believed as capital-abundant countries, they are exporting or they are producing some some labor-intensive goods. So this is a kind of paradox, and this is a kind of challenges to the traditional trade theories, which have not expected that this kind of changes might happen in the future. Okay, so let's apart from that discussion, what we are trying to see here, that molding department is a capital intensive department that uses more machine hour, and the painting department is a labor based department, and that uses more direct labor hours. So it will be wise if we determine the overhead rate for molding department based on the machine hours, and for the painting department we use the activity base as direct labor hours. So we have some information for calculating those direct labor hours used in molding department 12,000 hours, and painting department uses 60,000 direct labor hours. So from this direct comparison, we see that painting department uses more direct labor hour. And if we see the next item, machine hours, we see that molding department uses 70,000 machine hours, while the painting department uses 8,000 machine hours. So we see a significant divergence between the usage of direct labor hours and machine hours for these two different departments. So fixed manufacturing overhead cost, this is $497,000 for molding, and for painting it is $615,000. And about the variable manufacturing overhead per machine hour, it is 1.5 for molding, and for variable manufacturing overhead per direct labor hour is $2. So there is a job 205, which was started on August 1 and completed on August 10. The company's cost records show the following information concerning the job. So this is information particularly relevant for this job 205. Now, what is our task? Our task is firstly compute the predetermined overhead rate used in the molding department and the painting department. So these are some straightforward example, some straightforward exercises. You need to solve it by yourself if you can recall that what we understood in the class before the previous class in the slide. Okay, so let me share one part, I mean the molding department, and you can understand what is going to happen in the painting department. Okay, for molding department, we see that fixed overhead manufacturing overhead cost is $497,000. And let me write it down here for fixed portion and the variable portion, and it is for which department? Molding department. And for the fixed portion, it is 497,000. And as molding department is a capital intensive department, that's why, and there's a clear indication that we use the machine hours as activity base for molding department. And that's why the variable portion of the overhead cost for molding department will be 70,000 multiplied by 1.5. Will it be okay? 70,000 1.5 per machine hour variable cost for the molding department. It should be multiplied by machine hours or the labor hours? We see we have also a labor hours, 12,000. So why we are taking 70,000 instead of using the 12,000? Why? Why we are using the machine hours instead of using the labor hours to get the total variable manufacturing overhead cost for the molding department? Machine hours is the main cost driver for molding department. That is the appropriate answer from Plamit. Okay, so if we sum up all this, we'll get 602,000, and that is the overhead cost for molding department. So if it is the total, we can get the overhead rate for the molding by dividing this number by the total machine hours used in the molding department, that is the 70,000. So per machine hour, the molding department incurs 8.6 overhead cost. Okay. Okay, machine hour based. Okay. So in the same way, you will do the calculation for painting, same way, but you need to use your mind that which one would be applicable. 8.6, good. Okay, next requirement is compute the total overhead cost applied to job 205. So we see components of overhead cost, two portion of overhead cost. In fact, one portion is overhead cost applicable for using machine hours, another is overhead cost applicable for using the the painting department, using the painting works, which is dependent on the direct labor hours. So if you sum up the multiplication, if you in fact multiply the number of machine hours, you see number of machine hours used for the molding department for this job 205, we see that it is 110. So let me scroll it up. 110 multiplied by 8.6, and it is for the molding department overhead. And for the painting department overhead, you need to see that how many direct labor hours this job has used. That is the 84 multiplied by the answer, you get the predetermined overhead rate for the painting department. You need to insert this here and you get the total overhead cost for the job 205. Okay. And number 3, what would be the total manufacturing cost recorded for job 205? That is very straightforward. If the job contained 50 units, what would be the unit product cost? That is more very simple. Okay, what would be the total manufacturing cost recorded for job 205? We see that total manufacturing cost includes 3 components. One is direct labor, another one is direct, it should start with direct materials. Then second one is direct labor, which are given directly here, direct materials for molding, direct materials for painting, direct labor cost for molding 525, direct labor for 1470. And remember that in requirement 2, we have got the manufacturing overhead for molding. That should be this answer, 110 multiplied by 0.6. So here we need to write for machine manufacturing overhead 946. And for painting, we need to write which one we need to write, as painting is a labor intensive department. we need to take the 84 labor hours. We need to multiply this by the painting overhead rate, which you are supposed to calculate here in this part. And you will see that for molding department, we will get total manufacturing cost of around 2,241. It is for the molding department part. And for the part of painting department, you will see that it is 3,831. What we are doing, we are adding the direct materials, we are adding the direct labor, we are adding the manufacturing overhead here for the molding. And what we are doing the painting and same direct material, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. And when we sum all of these numbers in this way, we get the total manufacturing cost for job 205. We see some numbers are coming, good numbers, 6,072. Someone has already given this answer. Thank you, 6072. And remember, the unit product cost needs the denominator. The denominator is the units of units which have been covered in the job. So we see the information is given 50 units in the particular job. So if we divide this number 6,072, the total job manufacturing cost by the total number of units 50, we'll get 121.44 unit product cost per unit. So that is all about what we asked you to solve yourself. Okay. So let me close this screen, whiteboard. You see some snowfalls. That should be refreshing. Artificial. Okay. Okay. So we need to focus on the learning objective 5 of the chapter we are trying to explore that is related to the discussion what we already had made, that we have seen that it is possible to determine the overhead rate based on the plant-wide overhead rate. And again, we have seen that it is possible to use the overhead based on the different departments when the different departments are involved. But we also gave an idea that it is also possible that to determine the overhead rate based on the number of activities involved in adding the overhead to the products or incurring the overhead for the manufacturing process. Okay, so that is the activity-based absorption costing. Remember, while we are doing the absorption costing here, we are trying to integrate the cost information, manufacturing cost information in particular, to the units of products we are producing or to the job we are producing. And we see that some application of we see some challenges in the applying of manufacturing overhead, and we have some problems. We have discussed some solutions, but there is one alternative solution that instead of using the plant-wide costing, I mean the overhead costing, or using the department-wide overhead costing, alternatively we can use the activity-based costing to compute the manufacturing overhead and also the unit product cost as well. Okay, so I hope you are with me. So let's try to check that how this way of activity-based costing or activity-based system of applying the overhead costing works. Okay, so this is part of the chapter appendix. We have two appendix with this chapter. chapter 2, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, chapter 2. So it is from the first appendix of the chapter 2. And for the course purpose, we will need to have some brief discussion on the appendix A of chapter 2, but we will not see the appendix B of chapter 2, but that is also interesting. And that also works as food for the people who wants to learn more about the actual capacity and not using the total capacity, in determining the overhead rate. And you probably can recall that we solved one problem in previous class that uses the capacity which is lower than its actual capacity. So what is the implication? What is the deep insight into this system? You can also look at the appendix 2B for that purpose, but for the course purpose, we'll be interested to see the appendix 2A part, which is more related to the applying the predetermined overhead rate based on the activity-based costing. And we have a separate chapter. If you have explored the course outline, you will see there is a separate content for activity-based costing, which is popularly known as ABC costing. And this is kind of brief overview of how the activity-based costing works. And this learning from this appendix will also help you to go with the ABC costing in which we will be discussing in later. Okay. So before applying it, we need to have some preliminary concepts to be clear. Then we'll see that how it is applied and how it is different from the traditional system of applying overhead rate based on the volume of products produced in or expected to be produced in a particular year. And that is the traditional system. Okay, I believe you have not forgot what is the purpose of using or learning the application of job order costing. Okay, so we'll see the application, we'll see that how it works. But before that, I like to refresh ourselves just by asking you why the job order costing is required. What are the two purposes? At least you mentioned two purposes in your chat answer, that for which this job order costing will help us. Write in a very brief sentence, 3 or 4 words. I will try to understand by myself. For what purpose we are using the job order costing? Do not try to hang up with all the problems, mathematical numbers, by forgetting the purposes. Okay. So please write down in the chat box that why we are using the job order costing. What is our motivation? For what purposes it will be used? Yeah, to know if the job is profitable, that is good. So it also gives us some follow-up question whether we'll promote a job or not, or we'll stop offering this job. Then any other? Used for properly assigning the cost to the job. Yeah, Shadin, good. And what about others? Okay, I believe I have got my answers. So if you forget on the purposes, please try to reiterate. Otherwise, you will see that some numbers are playing before eyes and you are getting no meaning that what will be the usage of playing with these numbers. So obviously we are playing with some numbers, but we have some purposes and we are trying to directing ourselves to those purposes. Okay. Okay. So activity-based absorption costing. What is it about? Okay. So in the manufacturing process, a number of activities are conducted, And you see that by activity, we are not meaning here the uses of direct materials. We are not using the meaning of direct labor. Apart from this, we are trying to encapsulate those things which in which the manufacturing overhead are conducted. Okay, let's think of you have to set up your machine for production. Okay, you have to assemble the parts. You have to assemble the parts of the products, and that requires okay, you have to assemble the parts, and again it might be like that you need some packaging, and for textile manufacturing companies, you will see that there is an application that you need to use the cleaning, and that is also not part of, you cannot apply the cleaning cost directly to the direct material. You do not buy the cleaning materials for each of the products separately. Rather, you buy the cleaning materials, or you apply the cleaning materials in a batch basis or in a job basis. It is a kind of overhead part. So you see that there are a number of activities. I just have tried to identify some activities to help you to learn that what is meant by the activity here. Okay, so a number of activities are involved which will incur the overhead cost in the manufacturing process. So each of the activity consumes some cost. Each of this activity consumes some cost. So the traditional system, what the traditional system does, traditional system estimates the total manufacturing overhead cost be applicable from here to here, and divide this number by some activity base, some like some direct labor hours, some machine hours, some units of products to be produced, and apply the overhead rate. And you have seen application of department level. So in the previous problem we are discussing, so it's maybe like that. This is part of one department, this activity, and these three activities is part of another department. But you see that activity-based absorption costing system is more precise, and it is more narrow. It focuses narrowly on a specific activity rather than department, which is more wide in terms of the number of activities it is covered. And when it is plant wide, in that case, that is more wide, more okay. So you see the activity-based absorption costing is a more precise way of applying the overhead cost, and also then it narrowly focuses on an activity specifically. Okay, so you get the idea. Let's try to define it. That what is the idea of the activity-based absorption costing? So it assigns all manufacturing overhead cost. It assigns all manufacturing overhead cost. So for this purpose, it has a manufacturing overhead cost. It has a manufacturing overhead cost. It has a manufacturing overhead cost, but it applies the manufacturing overhead cost based on the cost pool. So the cost pool is a kind of cost bucket. Cost pool is a kind of cost bucket which includes the cost for performing an activity. So we'll see some precise definition in the next slide, but here cost pool is a cost bucket which includes the cost required to process an activity or to complete an activity. Okay, so instead of plant-wide or department cost pools, so you see that plant-wide is more wider and department cost pool is also wider compared to the activity-based absorption costing. And it focuses on the activity individually. So it might be like that single department is undertaking only one activity. Obviously, departments are allocated based on the activities, but sometimes you'll see that different departments have do not have the same number of activities. They have a varying number of activities. Okay, so let's try to define it, and we'll try to illustrate a problem to understand the difference. Okay, an activity is a kind of event which uses the resources. Resources for what? Resources which are part of overhead. So if you undertake this activity, obviously you need to undertake this activity, but the activity is anything or any event which uses the overhead resources. Okay, I was telling about the activity cost pool. What are these? For a single activity, you need to incur a number of costs. For a single activity, you need to incur cost. So when you are integrating, when you are pooling, or when you are accumulating all the costs which are directly related to performing a single activity, that is known as activity cost pool. Okay. So an activity measure is an allocation that is used as the denominator for an activity cost pool. So for example, for setting up machine, you see that a setup of machine is usually connected to somehow the batch of the products you will be producing. So for each batch, you have to set up the machine individually. So if you have 20 batches of production, you have to set up the machine for 20 times. Okay. So in that case, you need to divide the setup overhead cost by this number. So this number is an example of activity measure. And when you divide the total setup cost, which is a total activity cost in precise, for the setting up of machine, you are getting what? You are getting the activity rate. So activity rate, why you are doing this? You are doing this to get the cost which is applicable per activity. You see that you need to you need to set up the machine for 20 times for 20 batches of production, or it will be good if we, okay, say for total activity cost for setting up a machine is say $100, and total number of activities, not total number of activities, it will be precise if we say the activity measure. So if we see the number of setups which will be required is 20, we'll see that per setup we need $5. So this $5 is an activity rate. What is it indicating? It is indicating the cost for an activity per setup, or it can be per machine hour, or it can be per direct labor hour, whatever it is. You will see an application later. But why you are doing this? We are doing this because we like to apply the cost to the products. So we need a rate. So that is known as activity rate. So how it is different? The activity-based absorption costing from the traditional absorption costing. So the first point is more clear to you because I have given you some examples that which one is more wider. Okay. And you see that activity-based approach use more cost pool than a traditional approach. You see, In a traditional approach, you take one cost, you take a one cost pool, and you divide this number by the number of direct machine hours to be used or direct labor hours to be used. But here you see for each activity, you are taking a separate bucket, and each separate bucket includes cost. So straightforward understanding is that you are taking more cost pool in the activity-based absorption costing. And how these two are different in another way, the activity-based approach has some batch level and product level activities, which is more related to activity, but traditional approach heavily relies on the units of volume or the number of units to be produced or the total volume, okay, to get the overhead allocation. So what are the kind of batch level activities? I already have given an example of batch level activity. Setting up machine for a batch level production, or make a packaging for a batch. These are kind of some examples of batch level activity, so which is particularly relevant to the batch. So it might be like that here, when you are doing the batch level activity, you are not concerned that what number of products are included in the batch, in a particular batch. So regardless of the number of products in a batch, you try to understand that for each batch, I need this setup cost, or I need this packaging cost, or I need this cost, and this is directly applicable to batch, regardless of the number of units the batch is containing. Okay, so these are kind of some batch level activities. You are not concerned, and you do not need to bother about the number of products. And the second one is product level activities. And these are, you see that these are particularly relevant for the absorption costing. I mean the activity-based absorption costing, not related to the volume of units to be produced. And in the product level activities, you see that for each product, you need to make a design, you need to make some assembly. So these are particularly relevant for the product, and it might not be connected to the number of units you will be producing, and it is not also related to the number of batches which will be involved in the production. Rather, you are focusing on the particular product, and for each product you need separate installation. For each product you need separate packaging in this way. So let's try to look at one illustration so that we can understand that how the traditional approach and the activity-based absorption costing are different. So it is a kind of reminding you that how traditional approach works. It is not nothing new. So Siemens Industries provides the following information for the company as a whole, and for its only two products. One is deluxe category and another one is standard category. The product is hedge trimmer. A question to you, anyone knows that what is the purpose of hedge trimmers and what is it actually? Write your answer in the chat box. I'm interested to know that whether you have seen this hedge trimmer or you are aware of this product. Exactly, 2506, your answer to your question is yes, it is used in gardening. But actually, what is it? In gardening, we use a number of tools, but these tools look like what? Or for what purposes this tool is used in gardening? Write your responses in the chat box. I'm waiting for your response, and we'll proceed after understanding that for what product we are talking about, how it can be a deluxe product, how it can be a standard product. That is interesting. And you know that deluxe, standard, these are used in service companies more clearly. Clearing over grown grass. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you have got it, that when we see bush or when we see that excessively the grass are grown, and we need to trim it to a standard size, say 3 feet or 5 feet. You see you see some match, and you like to reduce the size to a standard size so that it looks good, it looks nice. So you need to cut the excess grass, or you need to cut the excess length of the plant you do not like to have. So you need to cut, you need to trim, not cut, trim is more appropriate. You need to trim the excess size. For that purposes, this hedge trimmer is used to hedge all the grass or all the plants in the garden to a same size. Okay. So obviously you can expect that the deluxe and the standard, between these two categories of hedge trimmer, deluxe is more kind of premium product and a standard is a kind of more basic product. Okay. So total estimated manufacturing overhead cost is 1.8 million. Total estimated direct labor hours is 400,000. Okay. So for each category of product, we are given two. The information into two groups. For deluxe and for a standard, we see that direct materials per unit for deluxe is $38. For a standard, it is $28. And direct labor cost per unit of deluxe product is $24. And for standard product, I mean hedge trimmer, standard hedge trimmer, it is $12. And now we have the direct labor hours per unit. It requires 2 direct labor hours. It requires 1 direct labor hour. We have been given information that 100,000 deluxe products are produced and 200,000 standard hedge trimmers are produced. One basic question to you, because it will be required later. Do you expect the number of products or the number of units of deluxe product should be smaller than the number of standard products? And if you expect so, what is the reason? What is the likely reason? Write your answer in the chat box, please. I need only 2 responses so that I can understand that you have an idea that why the basic or standard products are produced in a better volume compared to the premium or deluxe products. Please write your answer in the chat box. Yeah, responses are coming. I do not see my mouse. Where it is? Yeah. Deluxe products, the cost of deluxe may need more cost. Deluxe products should be produced less because they are more expensive. The deluxe products are for the certain number of customers since they are kind of luxury type. Yeah, the simple answer is that demand for deluxe product is likely to be lower compared to the standard product. Obviously, you look at demand first. then you look at cost, right? That is the way that how we usually proceed. We do not look at the cost first, we look at the demand first. Okay, good. Okay, so how we use the traditional approach. Okay, we use the traditional approach in this way, that we have a total overhead expense. Here it is, and we need to divide this by the activity base, which is total estimated direct labor hours. What we will get? We will get per direct labor hour what manufacturing overhead can be applied. Okay, that is the 4.5 per direct labor hour. Got it? So what we need to do now, we need to apply this to the deluxe product and the standard product separately. We see that for deluxe product, 2 units of direct labor hour is used, so that we can apply this overhead rate for deluxe product in this way, 2 multiplied by 4.5, and for a standard product we can multiply by 1 by 4.5, so that we have the manufacturing overhead cost. And if we sum up this and this, we will get the total manufacturing cost for deluxe product and for the standard product. Okay, we see this one. So we see the unit product cost for deluxe one is 71, and for a standard product, the unit product cost is 44.5. So this is the traditional approach. There is nothing new to learn. We already have learned how to apply it and how to calculate it. And we like to see now that how activity-based absorption costing is used in the similar situation. The ABC project team at Siemens has developed the following basic information. They have listed down what are the activities they need to perform to consume the materials. So to consume the overhead resources. Remember the concept of activity-based absorption costing, and they have listed some activities here. So you see 3 activities they have listed, which actually consume the manufacturing overhead resources. So these are 3 activities. One activity is you need support for the direct labor. This is not equal to direct labor. For the purpose of using the direct labor, you need some support. So you see, when you need some support, that is not a part of direct labor, but that is part of overhead. Direct labor support, this is one activity. Let me point out the activity. We see that this is number 1 activity. Second activity, machine setup, this one. So we see that this is another activity for setting up machine. It is usually more connected to a batch. Okay, we are discussing about the batch activities. So these are some activities related to batch. So for each batch, you need some direct labors, and not each batch, but you need some direct labor support for each batch production. And you see product level activities is more reflected in this part of activity, that is the parts administration. You can relate it with the parts assembly or assembly of different parts of a particular product. So this is another activity. I am identifying this number 3 activity. So total manufacturing overhead consists of 3 activities. One is direct labor support, another one is machine setup, another one is parts administration. So for the purpose of using ABC, not ABC, this here ABC is a company name, but we'll see that activity-based absorption costing, for this one, we need to have the information of the number of activities and the cost incurred for each activity. Otherwise, it is not possible to apply the activity-based absorption costing. The issue here is that the company has information for the manufacturing overhead. The company might not have information for, might not have provided the activities involved in the overhead activities, but you need to find out what are the activities involved in applying the manufacturing overhead resources. Then you can apply the activity-based absorption costing. We'll see that it is more precise, and we just have got that what information will be required to apply this. Okay. For the supporting direct labor, we need this amount of total cost, 9.9 million or 900,000. For setting up machine activity in total, we need $600,000 overhead cost. And for assembly of products activity, we need $300,000. Okay. And what is the sum up of all the manufacturing overhead? $1.8 million. And you see that we incurred same overhead expenses when we are using the traditional based approach of applying the absorption costing. But what is the difference? The difference is that when we are applying this, we just have divide this number by the direct labor hours. And we didn't have the information that what activities are involved here. And we would see that some activities are not directly relevant to the labor hours, are more relevant. You see that more relevant with setup, number of setup, number of products for which you are administrating the portion or assembling the portion. Okay. So expected activity. So this expected activity is measured in terms of these units. You try to understand here for deluxe products which will be produced, we need 200,000 direct labor support. 200,000 direct labor hour. A direct labor hour, based on direct labor hour, this support will be provided, and same for a standard, and this is for total. But you see, for setting up machine, the activity is dependent on the setup. How many setups will be required? How many setup will be required? We see that for deluxe, we need 400 setup, 400 times setup. For a standard, we need 100 times setup. And you see that with the less number of setup, you can use the more standard type of head trimmer. With for producing less number of deluxe trimmers, you need more number of machines setup, because it requires more sophistication for this premium or deluxe category of head trimmer. And you see the parts administration, and it depends for the, I mean, for premium product, you expect that more parts will be assembled in the deluxe product. And for the standard product, you expect that less number of parts will be assembled. That's why this number is smaller. Okay, so these are total. So how can we use the activity-based absorption costing? The issue here is that we have to determine the activity rate. I believe you have not forgot what we understood by the activity rate. We need to find out the activity rate to apply the cost to the product. And how we get the activity rate? We get the activity rate by dividing the total cost for each activity. We see that direct labor support, we need 900,000 total overhead cost for each activity. For this activity in particular, we need this $900,000, but we see that this will be applicable for this activity hours, this one, 200,000 plus 200,000, I mean total 400,000. So we need to divide this number by the expected activity for this one, direct labor support. We need to divide this by 400,000. So we get the 2.25 activity rate for this activity, direct labor support. In the similar way, we get 1,200 activity rate for setting up, and for parts administration, we get the activity rate $1,000. Okay, now we need to apply. We need to apply individually for individual category of product. We have two categories. One is deluxe, another one is standard. Okay, for deluxe product, you probably can recall that we need, remember, it is for the part of overhead. We have no problem with the direct materials. We have no problem with the direct labor. We have all the issues with the overhead portion. So we are, in this slide, we are working with the overhead. So for the deluxe product, we need these three activities in these three quantities. We need 200,000 direct labor support. We need 400 machine setup. We need 200 parts administration for the deluxe category of product. So from the previous calculation, we can use the activity rate here, and we get this total overhead cost. Remember, this is not the manufacturing cost. This is only the overhead cost. Obviously, it is a predetermined, but you see that 1.1 million amount of overhead expenses to be incurred for deluxe product. And for the standard product, in the similar calculation, we would see that we need 6.67 million overhead expenses. So what is our next task? Our next task is to determine the manufacturing overhead cost. Sorry, we need to determine the manufacturing cost by adding this overhead cost for each of this product with the direct materials and direct labor. So for direct materials, what we need to use the information here. Here is the information. Where is the information? Here. You see the information is here. For deluxe, we need $38 direct materials. We need 24 direct labor hours. So we need okay. So we need to determine the unit product cost by adding the manufacturing overhead cost with the direct materials and the direct labor. So you see that for the deluxe product, we need $38 per $38 cost material for each deluxe product, $24 labor cost for each deluxe product. And how we have got the unit manufacturing overhead? This one. How? In this way, you see that for deluxe product, we are incurring in total 1.13 million overhead expenses in total. Can you recall that how many deluxe products would be produced? Here it is. Okay, take me my point out here. Okay, you see, deluxe products will be produced in 100,000 quantity, and standard products will be produced in 200,000 quantity. So what we need to do? We need to divide the total manufacturing overhead cost applicable for deluxe product based on the activity-based costing. And we need to divide that number by the number of units to be produced in the deluxe category, and for the in the same way for the standard category. Okay, here what we are doing, we are dividing this number by 200,000 or 100,000. 100,000, and for this we need to divide this by 200,000. So you will see that when we are dividing 1.13 million by 100,000, you will see that overhead cost per per deluxe product is $11.30, and if you sum up all this, you will get 73.3, and similarly 43.35 for the standard category of hatch trimmer. And you see which product is costing more, deluxe or standard. Write your response in the chat box. I'm here. Yeah, deluxe. But now you need to do a comparison. Yeah, here is the comparison. When we are using the traditional based costing, we had a cost for deluxe product 71. But when we are using the activity-based costing, we see that the cost has gone up from 71 to 73.3. But opposite happened in case of a standard product. In case of a standard product, we are incurring 44.5 using the traditional costing, but when we are using the absorption costing, we see that the costing has gone down to 43.35. Okay. So you will see what is the reason. The reason is that activity-based approach contains two non-volume related cost pool, which is not connected to the volume. Which two cost? One is setting up machine. This is not connected to the units of volume or units covered in the volume. Rather, it is connected to number of setup of machine which will be required. And another portion which is a product level activity, that is part administration, which is not also connected to the volume, the total volume, which is more connected whether you are using the standard category or you are using the deluxe category. We see that in deluxe category, we had 200 parts to be assembled, and in a standard category, we need to assemble 100 100 parts to be assembled. Okay. So what is happening? Why these changes have incurred, or why this shift in cost have incurred? The reason is that when we are using the activity-based approach of absorption costing, we are assigning cost to our products in a way which is shifting cost from high volume product to the low volume product. You see, for high volume product, we require less cost for setting up machine, less cost for assembling part. And for high volume product, we need more cost for assembling product, and because there are more parts, and we also need more setup cost. So here what we are doing, it will be more wise if we shift more setup cost to the low volume product, because they require more setup. which is not connected to the volume, rather it is connected to the category of product you are producing. That is the reason that why the costs are changing for using different method or different approach of absorption costing. So that is the understanding of using the absorption costing in comparison to traditional approach of activity-based costing. So let me finish here for this part.